My name is James Williams Jr. This is the Kung Fu Havoc number 2. This video is very important for young mixed kids, so I'm going to try my best to keep this PG-13 as possible. If I happen to slip or swear, I'm sorry. So, let's get started. First and foremost, my name is James Williams Jr. I am of Cherokee Indian descent, as well as black and white. I am on both sides Cherokee. Both sides I have black, and one side, which is my mom's side, has white. If you guys see my mom, you'll understand. Her father's father was white. Her father's mother was black, making him mixed, but he could pass for a white man. Like my mom can really pass for a white lady. Trust me, I've lost her at least twice. My mother's mother is Native American and black, or she's all Native American, but we're not really sure because she was adopted and raised by a black woman who would be my grandmother Sarah. But my grandmother also has other sisters who have black features. Alright? So that part of my family is covered. Now let's go to my father. My father's father is black. Without a doubt, he is black. It is possible that he might have actually been from Aborigines. I don't really know. You can't go with what everybody tells you until I take a 23andMe test. Just go with that. My father's mother is Native American. Her mother before her was Native American. At least that's what I've been told. Again, once I take that 23andMe test, we'll find out. And as soon as I can find the money to afford that, we're going to do that. But anyway, here we go. As a person of mixed ethnicity, I've had problems all my life with the one concept that all of you are probably having right now. From the age of probably 7. Let's go with 7. 7's a good age, because kids on the playground, until we screw them up, will play with anybody. They don't care about your color. They don't care about your gender. They just want to play. The way we should all be. Innocent. Now, it's when we get home and start raising them to notice things like, oh, look at how yellow he is. Oh, look at how brown he is. Oh, look at how black he is. Oh, look at his hair. It's all curly. Oh, look at his hair. It's all nappy. Oh, look at his eyes. They're kind of slanted. Oh, look at her. She's all yellow. And she's a red bone. And all these other things. All right? And if you fall into those categories, it's more than likely you're probably mixed and just don't know it. Like I was. I used to just think I was black and got lucky with good hair. Then I found out that most naturally black people don't have great hair. I'm sorry. It's true. It hurt my feelings too because I always just thought I was black, It wasn't until I got into like the 3rd or 4th grade where being mixed became a factor because kids started pointing it out. I didn't know what that word even meant, Then I started getting all these half-breed jokes. Well, the joke was on all of us because I'm a triple threat. I'm also part Native American. I didn't find that out until I was in the 5th grade. So you're probably thinking to yourselves, where do I fit in? And I didn't even know the term mulatto until I got into my 20s. Alright, so I'm not mulatto. Let's make that 100% clear. I'm not mulatto. My brother and my sister under me could probably be classified as mulatto because they have more white features than black features. They have lighter skin and some good hair and some not so good hair. But for the most part, if you were to meet them in the street, you would probably assume that they were mulatto, or you would probably assume that my sister and my brother were white with tans. Okay? So, being mixed, we have an assorted color. Something bit me. And it's itching like shit. We have an assorted array of skin tones in our family, alright? And, my mom didn't really discriminate, but she's never brought home a white man, okay? But, she's brought home a lot of chocolate dudes, and then had a lot of chocolate half-breed children with the dudes. So, I'm the second of 7. And, when you're mixed, you go through a judgment period, and then you go through a self-hatement period, and then you go through the acceptance period. The judgment isn't from yourself. The judgment is from everyone around you. Trust me, I have been told many a times how I wasn't a real N-word because I was half white. They happened to have seen my mom when I don't know what I did, and she came to school, and then everybody knew, except for me, because I didn't understand what that meant. Then the white people were like, "Oh, we can't trust James because he's half inward." Then when we got to fifth grade, and Miss Conrad happened to point out my Native American features, which I didn't even know what that shit meant. You know, it's like, yeah, well, what? Okay. So then I had to ask my parents, and then I found out I got a culture shock. Oh, guess what, James? You're also part Native American. So you're no longer the little black kid that went to school with good hair. You're no longer the half-breed. Now you're multicultural. You have three cultures that you need to understand and accept. Although a lot of my family does not really accept the Native American side or the white side, they generally fade to the black side and just stay there. I, on the other hand, and I'm saying this on both sides of my family, I seem to be the only one that embraced our Native American heritage. I spent the most time with my great-grandmother Ada, and that would probably explain me. Where the rest of them, okay, this, and whatever. And, it also explains why I love rock and roll music versus rap music. Now, don't get me wrong, I did listen to Public Enemy and NWA and Bone Thugs and Harmony and all that stuff, and definitely DMX, but, I don't listen to that stuff y'all call music now, except for Eminem. I do listen to him. But, as a child, I mostly listened to rock and roll. I listened to Queen, I listened to Metallica, I listened to all the rock bands. Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister, Peter Cetera, The Glory of Love. Movie soundtracks have always been a thing that I bought. It didn't matter what the movie was. If the movie was good and the music was good, I went and bought the soundtrack. And we had these things called tapes. Okay? Cassette tapes. You put them in a Walkman, carry them around, and then CDs came out, so you had to buy a new Walkman because your tape can't go into a CD. I mean, nowadays with the technology, y'all got MP3s. Okay? And most of us just use YouTube in our phone, and we go with that. As a person of mixed color, I have been rejected by blacks, by whites, and until I got into my 20s, I hadn't had too much action with Native Americans, but because I flirted with one's daughter, I got rejected by that one specific tribe that came here doing the wheelchair basketball team. Other Native Americans that I've met have been fairly decent to me, and I have never really been rejected by anyone who's Asian. Go figure, right? I'll explain that in a minute. I've also never been rejected by people who were Spanish or Mexican, except for the teacher that was teaching me Spanish in college. I'll get to that in a second. So, when I was younger and I hung with black kids, they would have they would whisper things, and those things would be in the negative zone of, we can't really share this with James because he's half white and he might go tell the white people what we're planning. On the positive side, the white people were saying the exact same damn thing. So, fitting in wasn't happening. I found other kids who were mixed, but they seemed to be able to fit in more with some blacks and some whites, and for me, that just wasn't a thing. It wasn't happening, no matter what. But that was also because I would later find out that I was also Native American, so they didn't know where to classify me, all right? It wasn't until my Korean friend taught me that Native Americans were Asian that my life really just kept going from bad to worse from there. So, moving back, when I would try to fit in groups, I was that kid that would be, last picked in the games in middle school, And I never really played sports in high school or grade school that I liked to play anyway, which is how I got knocked out playing football. Thank you, Miss Early. Before hit it, and he got up and I didn't. Anyway, when it would come to things that I wasn't interested in, all the black boys wanted to do that. I would much rather play with Transformers and G.I. Joe. That was me, and comic books. Now, the reason that was, I was street fighting. I didn't have time to play football. I had time to do all the soccers and stuff. I did like soccer, and then I had an incident, so I stopped playing soccer. But, there were things that black kids and white kids did that I just did not fall into. You're normal. Trust me, it's okay. I would prefer my comic books. They would prefer the gridiron. I would prefer to go outside and work these bow staffs. You know, they would prefer to go in 10, hut, 1, 2, blue 32, that kind of stuff. Now I watch sports, but I didn't watch sports like talking about it. I knew a few good sport players. I knew Magic Johnson. I knew Michael Jordan. I knew Larry Bird. I knew Scottie Pippen and all those guys when I was coming through school. You know, I knew Bo Jackson. Hell, he had a cartoon. Him, Wayne Gretzky, and Michael Jordan had a cartoon. Pro Stars. Google it. You know, but as I grew up, there was never any representation of me on TV. No, ever. In fact, the first thing that was remotely close to me being on TV was like an episode of Chips, where the grandfather of some kid was like Native American and was teaching the kid, and the kid was basically kidnapped by his grandfather, and he wasn't going to school, and they had to go get him. It's his long story. And then there were other things, and then there was the Crying Indian, and you know they didn't have anybody who was mixed on TV. Not until like the late '90s, by the time I'm getting ready to graduate, and going through my generation, you know, the generation before me had it probably worse because there was segregation and all that stuff. But my great grandmother Ada would tell me that they had it, just as bad because there was no Native American bus and they had to walk to school. Now, so her and her brother had to walk to school, and that's fucking awful. They had to walk in the moccasins and all the other stuff. Now I don't know how much of the story is true. I just know that I learned all her stories because I was the only kid there. Then my aunt Ruth would later tell me that was because you're the ones that look mostly like her. If you looked more black, she really didn't have anything to do with you. But if you looked more Native American, you were selected, I guess. So, score 1 for Ada. Anyway, when I'm growing up and I'm like looking at things, let's see. I read a lot of Marvel, read a lot of DC. There are Native American characters, but there's no mixed characters. So I had to see if I wanted to be an X-Man, you know, I could be Wolverine. He was my favorite at one time, and then the Colossus. Then there was Sunfire, who was Japanese. Thunderbird didn't make it. And then there's Warpath, and there was Forge, and I didn't like Forge because I was scared of mustaches, which is why I try not to grow one. And then, you know, every hero had a different ethnicity, but none of them were mixed. If I was a New Mutant, the only Native American I could be was a chick named Mirage, Danny Moonstar. I'm not gay, so that wasn't going to work. I could be Roberto da Costa because he's Brazilian, which means he's probably got some native Mexican in him or Portuguese or whatever, but, you know, his powers was he turned pitch black and he was super strong. And he was short. I was already short. I didn't want to be the short guy. So, you know, no one would play X-Men with me anyway, so it wasn't like it was a big deal. And then that was also a New Mutant. And there was no mixed cats on X-Factor or Excalibur or X-Terminators, stuff like that. And then in the other superhero universe of DC, Apache Chief wasn't even in the comics. He was in the cartoon, and that cartoon was made, and they put other ethnicities in there to get children from Mexico, Japan, and black kids around America to watch it. That's why they had those 4 characters. They had Apache Chief, Black Bolt, Samurai, and El Dorado. You know, for those old enough to remember the Super Friends, you know, that's what it was. And those were not technically DC comic characters. They were the whoever was running the show at the time characters, but they, I think, may have came over into DC continuity by now. I could be wrong, but those other characters was as close as I could have to being heroes. Of course, El Dorado and Apache Chief were closer to me than Samurai, because I didn't know Native Americans were Asian, and apparently the people who drew them didn't know either, because Apaches are like Lakota. They're some Asian-looking motherfuckers, you know. So that being said, I'm sorry for swearing. You know, fitting in. Fitting in has been something that mixed children have had to struggle with from the day we start school. I'm going to make a second video. I'll try not to cuss. And then I'm going to be done. So, thank you guys.